You clicked on this video because something in that title hit home. Maybe you've been managing your blood sugar for years. Maybe you were just diagnosed and you're trying to figure out what to change first. Or maybe you're simply someone who loves their morning coffee and quietly wonders whether it's helping or hurting. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know you're in exactly the right place. Here's what I want you to understand right from the start. Most of the advice out there about coffee and diabetes focuses on what you put in your cup. And yes, what goes into your coffee matters. But that's not the whole story, not even close. The part that almost nobody is talking about, the part that can actually move the needle on your blood sugar in a meaningful way, is when you drink it. I know that might sound too simple. Surely it can't just be about timing, right? Well, I want to tell you about something that stopped me in my tracks when I first read the research. There are 3 specific windows of time each day, windows that are tied to your body's natural hormonal and metabolic rhythms, where a cup of coffee can actually help your body use insulin more efficiently. And there is one habit, one thing that millions of people do every single morning without even thinking about it, that is silently working against their blood sugar control in a way that most doctors never mention. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that habit is, why it's so damaging, and what to do instead. I've spent a long time studying the relationship between nutrition, timing, and metabolic health in people over 60. I've gone through hundreds of peer-reviewed studies, trial summaries, clinical nutrition guidelines, and circadian biology research specifically to put this video together for you. This is not general health advice recycled from a wellness blog. This is targeted, specific, and built around what the science actually says about how your body responds to coffee when you're managing blood sugar. Before we dive in, if you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds right now. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and give this a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people like you find this content. And drop a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. I'd love to know where our community is tuning in from around the world. Hold on a second. Before we go any further, I've put something together for you. It's called the Glucose Paradox. It's a free guide on blood sugar and diabetes, and you can grab it for free through the link in the description. I'm telling you this now because I want you to finish this video with a concrete tool in your hands. To get it right away, just click the link in the description, head over to my site, and drop your email. You'll receive the guide in your inbox a few minutes later. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. Let's start with the first mistake. And I call it a mistake because it's so deeply embedded in most people's morning routines that it doesn't even feel like a choice anymore. It's just what you do. You wake up, you shuffle to the kitchen, you hit the button on the coffee maker, and before you've eaten a single thing, you've got a hot mug in your hands. It feels like fuel. It feels like the thing your body needs to get going. But here is what is actually happening inside you during those first moments after waking up. When you open your eyes in the morning, your body is already in the middle of a carefully orchestrated hormonal process. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, surges in the early morning as part of what researchers call the cortisol awakening response. This is completely normal and healthy. Cortisol is what wakes you up. It's what gives you the alertness and drive to get out of bed. But cortisol also has a direct effect on your blood sugar. It signals the liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream, a process called gluconeogenesis. In other words, your liver literally pumps sugar into your blood every morning, even before you eat anything. For people with healthy metabolic function, the body's insulin response keeps this in check. But for people managing type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, especially those over 60, that insulin response is already compromised. Now add coffee into that equation. Caffeine amplifies cortisol. Multiple studies have confirmed that consuming caffeine during or immediately after the cortisol awakening response, which typically peaks between 30 and 90 minutes after waking, drive cortisol even higher. And that higher cortisol means more glucose flooding into your bloodstream from the liver, a sharper blood sugar spike, and a longer recovery window before your numbers settle back down. What feels like your first act of self-care in the morning is actually triggering a metabolic chain reaction that can set the tone for your blood sugar for hours. The fix is not complicated, but it requires a small shift in how you think about your mornings. Instead of reaching for coffee the moment you're vertical, wait, and while you wait, eat something with protein. Around 15 to 20 grams is ideal. Eggs, Greek yogurt, a small amount of cottage cheese, even a protein shake. Here's what that accomplishes. Protein at breakfast blunts the cortisol spike. It signals your pancreas to release a measured, appropriate amount of insulin. It stabilizes blood sugar from the start. And once you've had that protein, and given your cortisol about 20 to 30 minutes to naturally begin declining, then you drink your coffee. Not as a blood sugar trigger, but as a metabolic enhancer that layers on top of an already stabilized system. And here's an addition that the research supports quite strongly. Add half a teaspoon of true cinnamon to your coffee or to your breakfast. Not the cassia cinnamon you'll find in most grocery stores, but Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon contains active compounds that improve the sensitivity of your cell's insulin receptors, meaning your body can use the insulin it produces more effectively. Studies looking specifically at blood sugar management have found that regular consumption of Ceylon cinnamon can reduce post-meal glucose spikes and support better fasting blood sugar levels over daytime. Combined with the protein buffer and the delayed coffee, this is a morning routine that works with your hormonal biology instead of fighting it. Now let's move to the second mistake. This one tends to sneak up on people because it's framed as a relaxing, pleasant afternoon ritual. You've had lunch, maybe you've done a bit of walking or some light chores, and around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you feel that familiar dip in energy. So you make yourself a cup of coffee. It helps, you feel better, and you repeat this every day without thinking much about it. Here is what most people do not know about caffeine. It has a half-life of approximately 5 to 6 hours. Some people, particularly as they age, metabolize it even more slowly. What that means in practical terms is that a cup of coffee you drink at 2 in the afternoon still has roughly half its active caffeine in your bloodstream at 7 or 8 in the evening. And caffeine, even when you no longer consciously feel its stimulating effects, continues to keep cortisol elevated. It continues to block adenosine, the chemical that signals your brain that it's time to wind down and prepare for sleep. And it continues to suppress your body's natural preparation for nighttime metabolic recovery. This matters enormously for blood sugar. Here's why. Between roughly 11 at night and 3 in the morning, your body does something remarkable. It performs what you could call a deep metabolic reset. Growth hormone is released. Cellular repair accelerates. And crucially, your muscle cells go through a process of insulin receptor replenishment, basically restocking their ability to respond to insulin the next day. If sleep is shallow, disrupted, or shortened because of residual caffeine, that repair process is cut short. The next morning, your insulin sensitivity is lower, your cells are less receptive, your blood sugar response to breakfast is blunted, and the cycle continues. This is why so many people with diabetes notice that a bad night of sleep almost always corresponds to worse blood sugar numbers the next day. It is not a coincidence. It is a direct biological consequence. Cutting off caffeine by early afternoon, and 2 o'clock is a reasonable, research-supported boundary, is one of the simplest ways to protect not just your sleep, but your metabolic function the following morning. The third mistake is one most people already know about in theory, but continue to make in practice, often because the alternatives feel unsatisfying. Adding sugar to coffee is an obvious problem. It's essentially injecting fast-acting carbohydrates directly into your bloodstream with every sip. But the story with artificial sweeteners is more complicated, and the science here has become increasingly clear over the last several years. Compounds like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin were once thought to be metabolically neutral because they don't directly raise blood glucose. That assumption has turned out to be incomplete. What the newer research shows is that artificial sweeteners have measurable effects on the gut microbiome. They alter the populations of beneficial bacteria in ways that are associated with increased insulin resistance. A landmark study published in the journal Cell found that both saccharin and sucralose consumption produced glucose intolerance in healthy adults, not by raising blood sugar directly, but by disrupting the microbial environment that regulates metabolic response. For someone already managing compromised insulin sensitivity, adding this disruption to an already strained system is the wrong direction. What to use instead? If you need your coffee to have some richness or flavor, a small amount of full-fat, unsweetened cream or whole milk is far preferable to artificial sweeteners from a blood sugar standpoint. The fat in cream actually slows gastric emptying, which moderates any glucose impact rather than amplifying it. If you want a hint of sweetness without the microbiome disruption, a small amount of monk fruit sweetener, which has no caloric load and no known negative effect on gut bacteria, is currently the most research-supported option. Now let's talk about the positive side of this, because coffee, when used strategically, is genuinely one of the most underappreciated tools available for blood sugar management. The key is what I call the 3 golden windows. The first window, as we've covered, is the morning window: protein first, cortisol declining, then coffee with Ceylon cinnamon. But there's a second window that most people have never considered. About 20 to 30 minutes before lunch or dinner, a cup of black coffee acts as what researchers sometimes describe as a glucose buffer. Chlorogenic acids, the main polyphenolic compounds in coffee, slow the rate of glucose absorption from the small intestine. This means that the carbohydrates in your meal enter your bloodstream more slowly, producing a gentler, more manageable rise in blood sugar rather than a sharp spike. The coffee, in this context, is not just a beverage. It is a metabolic primer. It is essentially reducing the glycemic load of your next meal without changing what you eat. The third window is post-exercise, and this one is particularly powerful. Within 30 minutes of finishing physical activity, whether that's a walk, water aerobics, a yoga session, or any other form of movement, your muscles are in an active state of glucose uptake. They're replenishing their glycogen stores. Blood flow to muscle tissue is elevated. The transporters that pull glucose from your bloodstream into muscle cells are functioning at a higher rate. Coffee consumed in this window provides a mild boost that has been shown in research to accelerate this uptake even further. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that consuming caffeine after exercise increased muscle glycogen resynthesis by a meaningful percentage compared to carbohydrates alone. For people managing blood sugar, this means the exercise-induced glucose clearance effect is extended and enhanced. Let's also talk about how much coffee is actually appropriate for someone over 60 who is managing blood sugar. There's no universal answer, but there's a practical formula that many nutritionists working in metabolic health have found useful. Take your body weight in kilograms and divide by 30. The result is roughly the number of cups measured at about 150 milliliters per cup. That is appropriate for your size and metabolism. So someone weighing 70 kilograms would be looking at approximately 2 to 2.5 cups per day. Someone at 90 kilograms might tolerate 3. This is a guideline, not a prescription, and individual responses to caffeine vary considerably. But it gives you a starting point grounded in physiological proportionality rather than arbitrary habit. One more important note for those who have switched to decaffeinated coffee or who are considering it: not all decaf is created equal. The most common decaffeination method involves chemical solvents, methylene chloride or ethyl acetate, and while the regulatory consensus is that residual levels are too low to pose direct health risks, there is ongoing scientific discussion about cumulative exposure, particularly in populations with compromised liver function or increased sensitivity, which includes many people over 60. The method with the cleanest safety profile is the Swiss water process, which uses only water and carbon filtration and leaves no chemical residue. If you drink decaf, it's worth checking that the label specifies Swiss water process. The polyphenols and chlorogenic acids that make coffee metabolically valuable are preserved in good quality decaf, so you can still use the 3 golden windows timing strategy without any caffeine. Think about where you were at the beginning of this video. Maybe you started with a cup of coffee on an empty stomach, a little uncertainty about whether your morning habits were working for you or against you. Maybe you had been told to cut back on coffee entirely, or that it was neutral, or that it was fine as long as you skipped the sugar. Now you know something more specific, more actionable, and more grounded in how your body actually works at this stage of life. The timing of your coffee morning protein first. The pre-meal window the post-exercise window, can meaningfully shift how your cells respond to insulin. Cutting off caffeine in the early afternoon protects your nighttime metabolic repair. Choosing your additions carefully, or going black, keeps the benefits of coffee clean and uncontested. These are not dramatic lifestyle overhauls. They are precise, targeted adjustments. And over weeks and months, those adjustments show up in your energy, your sleep, and eventually in your HbA1c numbers. You have more control than you may have been led to believe, and you now have the roadmap. And hey, if you made it all the way here, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button to let me know this was worth your time, and leave a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and it means a lot to see how far this community reaches. You know what the problem is with diabetes and high blood sugar? Most people find out way too late, and by the time they do, they have no idea where to even start. That's why I decided to create a free guide. It's called the Glucose Paradox, and inside, you'll find everything you wish you'd known sooner. I'll explain how blood sugar actually works, and why your body sometimes reacts the exact opposite way you'd expect. That's why it's called a paradox. I've also included concrete habits you can start changing right now, even if you know zero about nutrition or medicine. It's free, you can download it in a second, and it might be the single most useful thing you do for your health today. Just click the link in the description to head to the site, drop your email, and get the guide sent straight to you. Don't put this off.